Civic society consists of individuals and organizations independent of government. They are there to manifest interest and will of the citizen. They speak tolerance, accommodation of pluralism and diversity. They lobby for the needs and concerns of the society. Now that Zimbabwe is heading for the parliamentary and presidential elections, we ask some members of the civic group about their opinion on the electoral process and the possible outcome.
I think the big debate about the pre-election period has been, was there adequate preparation? And the general view of all of the political parties, both at top leadership level and at candidature level and even supporter level, has been sort of like dissatisfaction at preparatory stages around the elections.
My opinion of the elections, these forthcoming elections, is first of all, it's a rushed process, and most of us were caught unaware. We were banking on the court process, the constitutional court. We were hoping that the elections were going to be delayed to pave way for necessary reforms, security sector reform, media reforms, and all the legislation that we have that is prohibiting citizens to participate actively in the democratization of the country. Legislation like the Public Order and Security Act and the Access to Information and Privacy Act, IPA. So, we had to work with what is there. The president proclaimed the election date as 31 July. And we had to work within the resources that we have in terms of time and also in terms of financial resources.
The process so far leading to elections has been going on well. If you look at how the environment is as compared to the previous election that we had in 2008 in June, that we witnessed a lot of violence and intimidation right across the country as the country was gearing for the June 28 election, 2008. But what we've noticed in this election is a paradigm shift in that it's more about the issues other than the physical contact that is violent and intimidation. There are very few cases so far that have been reported of violence, probably intimidation in some parts, which is quite commendable for us as a nation, that Zimbabweans have really moved to that phase of elections being not about violence, but being about issues.
ZEC really needs to be reformed. 2013, honestly, I don't think we should not be having a fully computerized system. And this, because of the lack of this computerized system, you find that we had very long queues during the voter registration period. It was quite chaotic. The two centers I thought were flowing well because we're monitoring on the ground, were the Courtney Selou Center and the Mount Pleasant Hall Center, mobile centers. But for the rest of them, it was chaotic. They closed early during weekends at 5 p.m., which is when everybody else is mostly free.
So it's a good thing that as Zimbabweans we're going through an election. It's long awaited, especially that we've just gone through a transition like from 2008. So it was bound to happen. We were bound to have an election.
Sadly, we are very much worried about the preparedness of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, as witnessed by the shambolic election, special voting election that happened over the weekend. These guys knew very well that there was going to be, on the 14th and 15th, they were supposed to be special voting, but it's so sad that their ballot papers were not in place, and the voters' roll still was not in place because a lot of officers, security personnel, failed to locate their names on the voters' roll. We however hope that come the 31st of July that these guys are going to put their house in order to make sure that all Zimbabweans are not prejudiced. All Zimbabweans will participate in that election because it is their democratic right to participate in elections anyway.
In as much as we are worried about the preparedness of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to conduct the election, we were just wondering how much time it is going to take for them to announce the results. And even though we have a constitutional provision for that, we're just hoping it's not going to have some technicalities around it so that we get a delay in the announcement of the results. But so far what we've been hearing is that the international community is prepared to engage Zimbabwe. They've started working on engaging Zimbabwe. Whether the MDC wins or ZANU-PF wins or whichever government comes in, they are prepared to engage Zimbabwe as long as they have a free and fair election. But it's about, we need to go beyond a free and fair election to look at a credible and transparent election. Because what is happening, some of the things you might not be able to pick them if you are out there as an observer, an international observer or an observer from SADC or AU. There's a lot that is happening in our communities. And we know that if we're going to have conditions that are free and fair in an environment that is conducive, there are parties that have chances of winning, like the MDCT, for example, to have chances of winning.
As I see these elections, I think that it's more of a 50-50. It can go either way, but with the ZANU-PF having a slight advantage over the MDCT, basing on the way, if you check what happened during the referendum, it's very rare that we are going to have what I can call a free and fair election, as I can say, because the way the referendum was held, that there were no reforms that were done in the media, in the security, those who were campaigning, like our organization, we were not allowed, we were not given adequate time for the people of Zimbabwe to peruse through the constitution. That's just like the people of Zimbabwe have been forced to have an early election. But however, it was also the responsibility of all the parties in the inclusive government to make sure that there were supposed to be adequate reforms that were supposed to be the ingredients of credible election. But as you have noticed that the public broadcaster for the past 4 years, it has been recording its programming was biased towards one political party. If you look at the public newspaper, that is the Herald and the Chronicle.
There are inherent biases in the manner in which ZBC, the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, covers this election. You look at the launch of the manifestos, for example. ZANU-PF's first launch was widely publicized before the event took place. ZBC was advertising and urging what it called progressive Zimbabweans to go and attend the ZANU-PF manifesto launch in Highfields, the Zimbabwe grounds. But the MDC was also preparing for its manifesto launch. It was never publicized.
The reaction that is most evident is now apparent, where the mainstream opposition parties are already disputing the veracity of the electoral process, and some have taken the issue to SADC, even though they are campaigning, or they've taken it back to SADC, even though they are registered as candidates in the same electoral process. Essentially, for the opposition parties, they will be disputing the election both as a process and as the end result. ZANU-PF is not disputing too much the processes, but I'm sure it will also dispute the results, as it has always done, especially where it loses. But it comes across as being more confident about a victory, which of course has raised a number of eyebrows across various private or civil society circles. Why explain the confidence? I mean, how does ZANU-PF remain so confident of a victory? And at the same time, the question must also arise as to why is the MDC claiming victory but disputing the process in which it is participating? So you've got serious contestation around the results. The big issue is A, how does the public react to one party saying that these elections were rigged, and B, and secondarily so too, how does SADC react? And how does the African Union react to the electoral results? And the international community, which has said it is simply looking for a credible election.